Hey everybody, welcome to day 2 of the Easter Joy Craft Along. I am Melva Peters and I am a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in British Columbia, Canada. And I am partnering with Lorraine Tierney and Lisa Bowden from the United States on this. So they've created some of these projects and I've created them. And if you joined yesterday, we made 4 of the 8 projects. And I apologize, I'm still not feeling 100%. So I'm still a bit froggy, better than I was, but still a bit froggy. So apologies if I go on mute. I have a big bottle of water here and hopefully I won't have some coughing like I did yesterday. Apologies for that if you joined. I found the mute button, so I think I figured out how to go on mute when I start to cough. All right, so we're going to make the other 4 projects from this. So a little bit about this craft along. You may have signed up already, and there are 3 options. You could do the I Want It All, which means you get the Easter basket bundle, you get the Easter Joy Designer Series paper, the Easter assortment embellishments, and the balmy blue gingham ribbon. And so plus the PDF tutorial and a pillow gift for you. So you get all of that if you sign up for the I Want It All. Or if you already have the bundle, you can sign up and get the Designer Series paper, ribbon, and embellishments, plus the pillow gift and the PDF. That's another option for you. Or if you have everything that you need to make these projects, you can sign up and get the PDF tutorial. So those 3 options are there. The link is underneath the description for this video, whether you're watching on Facebook or you're watching on YouTube. The link is there, and if you can't find it, just reach out to me. I still have kits left, so it's not too late, even though we're doing the lives yesterday and today. But if you have fallen in love with these projects like I have, maybe you want to sign up and get the kit, and then either the option of the bundle, or maybe just the PDF because you don't live in Canada, but you still want them. And to make sure if you don't live in Canada or the United States, all of the measurements for these projects are also in metric, so you don't have to worry about converting. We've done that for you. So if you aren't using imperial measurements like we do in North America, not to worry, we've got you covered. All right, let's get started. I'm hoping I've got some people joining. If you're joining, let me know where you're joining from. And yeah, we'll get started with these. All right, so this is the PDF tutorial, and we're going to start on page 13, making this little box. So let me show you the project. Actually, let me quickly, in case you didn't join yesterday and you're interested to see what we made yesterday, the first project we did was a diagonal joy fold card, like that. And then we made, what did we make next? We made this, actually we made this one next. We made this Dutch door. Hey Pam, yay! We made this Dutch door card. And then we made this adorable little treat basket. I can't wait to make some of these for the Easter table. And then the last thing we made was a triple Z fold or Z fold card. So these were all, let's see, I designed that one. These 2 were Lorraine Tierney projects, and this one was Lisa Bowden's project. So I love creating when I don't have to do the work. They've done the work for these, and it's fun to try different things that maybe we don't try ourselves. Okay, so the next project is this really fun little box, and it's so easy to make. Yesterday I mentioned this paper, the Easter Joy paper, is a bit different than we've had before. I think we've had some that's like it before, but typically our Designer Series paper is a little thinner than this. This is quite thick and it's glossy, so it's a little bit different, but it works really well for 3D projects. So this little box probably will fit maybe like 3 Lindor chocolates or something, the big round Lindor chocolate balls with this cute little bunny rabbit with his carrot. And then this is a die cut from the Stylish Shapes dies. So if you got the kit, you should have everything you need except for the Designer Series paper, ribbon, and there are no embellishments on this. And you're just going to die cut the pieces, the grass, and then the bunny and the carrot. Okay, let's get started. Get my instructions out, get my kit out. So I'm going to make it the same as what's in the picture with the striped designer series paper. But if you, let me zoom in, if you are wanting to do something different, you could absolutely change it up. So I've got my little banner, label banner. Well, no die cutting the 6x6. You just have to, we're going to use the paper trimmer for the 6x6. You just have to cut it out. So we've got our pieces cut. You can't see that. So the little piece for the grass. You're going to wonder, this doesn't cut the whole piece of the grass. It was just a really short piece, but you don't actually need a very wide piece. You're going to, if you cut it longer, you're going to trim it off anyway. And then you've got a piece of basic white for stamping the bunny. Okay, so let's grab, now I'm going to zoom out again. So we're going to grab our paper trimmer. What we're going to do is we're going to score our DSP on one side. So depending on, oh yeah, okay, so perfect. We're going to score it together, Pam, so that's okay. So depending on where you want, which way you want, if you're using stripes, which way you want the stripes to go, either horizontal or vertical. I'm going to have mine go vertical. So I'm going to put my piece of DSP in the paper trimmer so the stripes are facing vertical, or whatever your design is facing the right way. And we're going to score all of these, the sides of the box, not the bottom. So we're going to score it at 1.5. Make sure I'm scoring and not cutting. All right, scoring at 1.5. Don't press real hard. Even though it's thicker, you still have to be a little cautious about how hard you press. 1.5. Trying to follow my directions. 2 3/4. 4 1/4. So these are on page 13 of your PDF. 4 1/4, and then 5 1/2. Hello, Marva. Welcome. All right. So then what we're going to do is we are then going to turn 90 degrees, and we're going to score. This is now going to be the bottom of the box. We're going to score it at 1 1/4. These boxes are really easy to make, and once you've got the kind of the general way of making them, it's pretty easy to increase the size if you wanted to use like a 12 by 12 piece of cardstock. Okay, so we've done our trimming, or we've done our scoring. In the PDF, if you have the PDF, it shows you how you're going to cut these. So what we're going to do is, it's hard to see. This is, I've got my 1/2 inch little flap on my left-hand side. So we're going to take and cut along that 1 1/4 inch score line, and then we're going to cut that little rectangle corner off like that. Yeah. Okay. And then we're going to cut up, and you do have to be just a little careful. If you score, I've just noticed that if you score this on the glossy side, it almost leaves, especially if you do it, I don't know if you can see that line. It's almost scored through the ink or the color on the paper, which does make it a little easier to cut. That helps. All right. So we've now cut out our little rectangle, and we've cut 4 flaps in the bottom on each of the score lines up to that 1 1/4 inch score line. Hopefully that makes sense. Now we're going to take, yeah, backwards. Sorry, Pam. I think I scored it this way across to the 1/2 inch, but now we're going to take our bone folder, and we're going to fold and make a box. So gently burnish on each of those score lines. I can tell the ones I was being a little gentle on. There we go, score. So we're just folding inwards. So when this is done, this will all just kind of fold. You can kind of see, if you fold all of them inwards, we end up, oh gosh, that's big. There we go. We get a box shape like this. And then these can also, you can take and fold up and burnish on the on the flaps of the bottom of our box. Like that. So once you've got this, it makes it pretty easy. Now you can use liquid glue or you can use tear and tape. I like to use tear and tape for boxes because they do get a bit of wear and tear. And so I'm going to put some tear and tape. So I keep flipping back and forth. I'm still on my different setup for my live after my launch on Saturday, and so I'm still not in my normal filming station. And here we go. Get my take your pick tool to be able to get off this piece. So if you turn it over, and I'm going to fold inwards on that. So this is my half inch little flap here. It's got the tear and tape on it, and I'm just going to fold inwards and inwards, and those two should match and line up, and that creates our box like that. Hopefully that makes sense. And then it's just a matter of adhering down the bottom of the box. Now you could use liquid glue on these. You could also use tear and tape, but I don't worry too much about the bottom because there's 4 layers here. Oh, and I have a lot of glue. This is going to splodge. This is a new glue. I started yesterday and I've got a lot. All right, let's try and not squeeze quite so hard. That always happens to me. Does it happen to you when you open up a new glue container, glue bottle? All right, and then one more. You could trim these a little bit if you wanted to take off some of the bulk, but they line up quite nicely to give you a nice sturdy box. And if you have something like a bone folder, just put it into the box and just kind of press down on the bottom. So we've got our box made. So there's no top to this box. What we're going to do for the top is we're just going to take, and with our two what are those called? Pointer fingers? No, I don't. Those index fingers? Anyway, these 2 fingers next to the thumb, you're just going to push inwards and press that close so that you get that. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that I know that makes it easier with those. So we're just going to push the sides in and then squeeze, and now we've got this closed. Now what you want to do is make sure that you've put your candy in there before you take your label that was from the Stylish Shapes. We're going to take, and you could use your paper trimmer, or you could just take and fold that in half like that, so you end up with a little tab. And we're going to take this, squeeze it together. I should probably put some candy in here, but I don't have any candy handy. No candy is handy, which is a good thing because I might eat it. So we're just going to take this, squeeze it, press that all the way down to the top of the box, and then just take a stapler and about 1/4 of an inch, just staple that closed. So then you can kind of push this in as much as you want. But I think it probably will hold 3 of those Lindor balls, which is kind of a cool little box. All right, so now let's decorate. And I realized I'm going a little fast. Yesterday it was an hour and a half. I was worried that was a little bit too long. So you'll have these videos after the fact to watch and catch up with them. So we're going to stamp the bunny that has the little stand-up ear and the lopsided ear. So you want to be able to stamp both the bunny and the carrot on this piece of basic white cardstock. There should be plenty of room. And somewhere I have the carrot. Like that. And, all right. So we're going to use 2 colors. Where are my blends? Hidden under everything. Doesn't take long to get everything a mess on my desk. Okay, so I've got, I think the instructions say peach pie. I've got Timid Tiger, which I grabbed, so I'm just going to use Timid Tiger for the carrot. This is what I used yesterday. So we're just going to color my carrot, and I'm just going to add some of these little lines in the dark. I'm not going to do any blending. We're just going to it's kind of a really tiny little image. All right, and then the bunny is colored in crumb cake with pretty in pink for the ears, just the inside of the ears and the little nose. So again, no blending on that. Oh, I forgot the leaves, stem leaves. I don't know, the top of the carrot. So that's in Shy Shamrock. All right, as I said yesterday, when I color using blends, I always, make sure I've got the right one, I always lay down a layer of whatever the light color that I'm using. And I don't always use, like if I could use, say, light crumb cake and dark pecan pie or something like that, or light balmy blue and dark misty moonlight. So sometimes I will combine colors in light and dark as opposed to doing, the two of the same color. But whatever it is, I use the light one first to lay down a layer. And then I go back in where I want some dark. And I just do some, just kind of around the edges where I want to have some dark. And I am not the world's best colorer. I don't necessarily see where the light is going to be, which is kind of what you're doing. It's almost where the shadows are. I just go in and add in some sections that are going to be a little darker. And then I go back over with my light. So I do find, and you might, if you use this method, there's no right or wrong. I know lots of people who go and add the dark section in first, and that's not wrong. That's their way of doing it. And so I do find that I use my light blends run out before my dark ones do. So then I just go over it and kind of blend those. And when I do the blending, I go in kind of in a circle just to kind of blend out the line. Okay, and I'm leaving the tail white. So yesterday I fussy cut. Today I will pull out my, there they are. Wondered where my dies were. So I will pull out the dies for the carrot and the bunny. And I use Post-it note tape. I get this on Amazon because I find that for some reason, my dies shift. I don't know, maybe it's me. But I do find that using these, just a little bit of Post-it note tape, it helps not have my dies shift as I'm running it through. Some of the dies are quite small, so you kind of have to press that Post-it note tape inwards. And here's my mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss, perfect for this. I'm at my craft table instead of a workstation I have for filming, so I don't have a lot of room when I start pulling a lot of things out. So the mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss works really well for this space, assuming that my images are small enough to be cut out. All right, so I've got this cute little bunny. Oh, cute. Cute is he? It's like Peter Rabbit. You can save these when you use Post-it note tape. Just save them. You can use them 2 or 3 times. Put my dies back in so I don't lose them. Now, my box. So I'm going to use dimensionals to put my bunny on. Just a couple of dimensionals. So my bunny's just going to go kind of here on my box. And then the grass is just going to go below And so I find one of the things I like to do is on the mini dimensionals, they always have this side of them that isn't cut all the way to the edge with the dimensionals. And so you can take and trim off that to use when you need just a narrow little piece of dimensional. Or you can use the dimensional foam strips. They're a little, they're really easy to use. I loved using them, but you've got this on the dimensionals, so you might as well use it. And so we're just going to put our little bunny on. Oops, I didn't get him the grass very straight. Oops, oh well, it's going to have to be like that. Okay, and the other thing is, now I should have done this before I put this on my box. Take an X-Acto knife, or the point of the paper snips, if you have them, is really sharp. And so we're just going to cut a little slit. And like I said, this would have been way better to do had I done it before I put this on my box. And then I'm going to take a mini dimensional on my carrot. And we're just going to tuck, if I can. I think I've got a dimensional right underneath, which is what happened to me yesterday. We're going to tuck our carrot in if we can. Let's see if I can cut this a little bit more. All right, well, that didn't work. But anyway, you get the idea? This tucks in just like that, so it looks like our little bunny is carrying his own carrot. Now, we want to add some ribbon. So this is really pretty blue, balmy blue gingham ribbon. So we're just going to take and tie a bow, as she says. There we go. Oops, got twisted. There we go. We're going to cover up that staple with this bow. And I like just to use a glue dot. This bow is a little big for me. There we go. A little bit smaller for those loops. And just put a glue dot on the back of the knot, and then cover up the staple like that. That's another. There we go. How cute would this little box be on your table at Easter? So you have the choice, or maybe you do both, of this little basket or this little box. All right. So that is project number 5. I'm going to just clean up my workspace just a little bit so I can find everything that I need for the next project, and let you kind of take a breath, maybe finish up what you're doing, and then we'll get started on the next project. I have 2 of these now. I'm so excited. It is so cute. So this box was designed, I forgot to say this, by Lisa Bowden, who lives in Oregon. I have such fun collaborating with other demonstrators because I get to do things and they have ideas that I don't necessarily have, and so it's always fun to participate. Okay, are we ready to get going on the next project? So this is one that I designed. I called it a pop-out card. And so when you open it, this section on the inside pops out. So you can do way more decorating. If you wanted to put basic white on the inside, you absolutely could do that. It doesn't really leave you any room for writing on, so you could put a piece of basic white on this side and do a little bit of writing. You could put some basic white on here, or you could use this one and leave it blank, and so that you do a little bit of writing on there. Okay, so in your kit, if you got a kit, it is this one with the balmy blue. There is no die cutting on this one. It is we're going to do some scoring, but no die cutting. So we've got a card base that's half of a sheet of balmy blue cardstock. and it's scored in half. So it's the booklet fold scored in half. So regardless of whether you're metric or imperial, you're going to take half of a sheet and then score it in half to create your card base, like that. Okay. So in your kit, you also have this piece of balmy blue that should be cut and scored for you. If it's not scored, the scoring instructions and measurements are in your tutorial. So this is the piece that goes on the inside of the card. So it's the same length, width of your card, and just quite a bit shorter. So 1.5 by 8.5 if you're in imperial, and 20.8 centimeters by 4 centimeters if you're metric. So this is the piece that goes across like this. And when you fold it, because I think we've already done the scoring. If we haven't, the scoring instructions are there for you. So when you fold it, it's going to be a mountain fold in the middle and then 2 valley folds on either side. So you end up with a W, a piece shaped like a W. And just use your bone folder to give those score lines a good burnish. Now I'm going to give you a little trick, and I don't know if you can see this. My piece is a little bit, not rough, but it's a little uneven. And sometimes I find that if my trimmer blade needs to be replaced, which it might have done when I cut this, I get a bit of an edge that looks like it's kind of pushed forward a little bit. So just take your bone folder and run it along the edge, and that will flatten that out. It's usually for me a sign that I need to replace my trimmer blade. Not always, but that's often the case that I get. Okay, so now we're going to take, before we adhere all these down, we're going to do the stamping and adhering. So in your kit, you should have got one piece that is slightly bigger than the other, I think. All right, you should have 4 pieces of balmy blue cardstock. And you should have 2 pieces of basic white. And then you're going to cut 2 pieces of the designer series paper. This is the one, you can use whichever side you want to, but I was using just this really pretty, very delicate balmy blue side. So we're going to adhere the designer series paper onto these pieces of balmy blue. Try not to squeeze my glue too hard so I don't get a big splodge of glue. So the designer series paper can go on to these pieces, and then we're going to do some stamping and coloring on the other 2 pieces. Okay, so those 2 can just be set aside. And now let's take one of our pieces, and we're going to stamp that same bunny with the floppy ear in tuxedo black, like we did on the last project. And he just fits on here, so there we go. So he just fits. And on the other piece, while we're stamping, we're going to stamp For You at the top and the flowers at the bottom. And I think that's everything we're going to stamp. So again, I used dark Pretty in Pink for the ears and Crumb Cake for the bunny. And then I used a combination of colors. I don't have balmy blue in front of me, but I do have Pretty in Pink. I do have yellow. I have my Shy Shamrock for the leaves, and I think I'll use the Timid Tiger for the other flower on this one. There's all sorts of colors in these Easter eggs, so you can use whatever color you want. So again, the bunny. I'm going to color the whole thing except the nose and the inside of the ear. So if you just joined, this is the Easter Joy Craft Along, and so you can still get the kit for this class, but I was showing you, yes, this is part 2. Yesterday I showed you how to make the first 4 projects. Today I'm showing you how to make the other 4 projects, and so you can get the kit, either the I Want It All, which includes the bundle, or just the kit. Or you can get the PDF tutorial. So this is part 2. Just color the little nose of the bunny in pretty in pink. And now I'm going to go back in and just add some of the dark crumb cake, just to give it a little bit of shading, some texture. I said I'm not the best at that. I just kind of add it where I think it would add a little bit. There are some pretty amazing demonstrators who are master colorers. If you've ever seen Jay Soriano, he is just the most amazing colorer with the blends. And he actually teaches classes, master coloring classes. All right, so there we go. We got our bunny. I'm going to leave the tail white. And then for the flowers, I'm going to do one flower. I'm going to leave the centers. I'm not sure what I'm going to do those. One flower in the Daffodil Delight. One flower in Timid Tiger. One flower in, here's my pinks. The light pretty in pink. You could do them all the same color if you want, whatever you want for your card. And then I'm going to do the center of the flowers in the dark pretty in pink. And leaves in Shy Shamrock. There. Like I said, I'm not spending a lot of time doing the coloring because they're not big images. If you have a really big image that you want to do some very detailed coloring, those are the ones to spend time on, at least in my opinion. There we go. So these now can adhere on to the other 2 pieces of Balmy Blue. Like that. Okay, so we've got all of our stamping done. Let's start with the card. So the front of the card, well, I cut tulips on this one. I don't know what you guys cut, but on my original card I cut the Easter eggs. This one I've cut tulips, and so I'm just going to adhere this piece on the left edge, aligned with the left edge of my card. I think I have to trim it. I think it's just a little bit too long. We'll see when I get it adhered on. I'm going to zoom out. There we go, so you can actually see like that. Yeah, it's just a touch too long, so I'm just going to take my paper snips and trim that little bit off like that. So then this piece, we're now going to stamp Easter's on its way using Tuxedo Black. You could do this first, but I'm pretty sure this fits, so we're just going to stamp this. Yep, fits nicely, so you don't have to worry about it not fitting. Okay, so now before we adhere this on, we want to tie some ribbon. So you could do this one of 2 ways. On this card, I wrapped it around and then tied a bow. If you don't want to use all that ribbon, you could do a faux bow. So in order to tie this a nice bow, don't jip yourself. So leave enough of an end so you're going to be able to tie your bow like that. Let's see. I think I'm still going to run into issues. Let's make sure I don't. And so tie a bow And probably you want to adhere it with a glue dot to keep it in place. If you want to tie a faux bow, what you do is you take a piece that is about 6.5 inches, cut it off, and adhere these two ends to the back of your card base, and then cut another piece about 6 inches, 5 inches, and then tuck it underneath and tie a knot. So it will look like a bow. So I'm going to do it that way on this card, and so you can maybe see the difference. And on this one, when I use ribbon and I want to adhere ribbon onto the back and make sure it doesn't move, I grab my Stampin' Seal. I've kind of switched away from using Stampin' Seal, but this is the one place I definitely use it, is to make sure my ribbon is not going to, and of course it's misbehaving itself. There we go. There we go. Oops. There we go. Okay. So we can adhere it just in the middle, like this. Okay, and then I also take the Stampin' Seal and I go right over it. So when I'm adhering this whole piece of basic white to my card, I go over top of the ribbon. And we'll adhere this to the front of the card. Now for the rest of the faux bow, like I said, cut another about 5 inches. You probably have to trim. You will trim it. It's too long, but I don't like to jip myself. Sometimes I find I get really cheap with my ribbon, and then I have a hard time tying knots and bows. So now you can just slip this piece of ribbon underneath the ribbon that you adhered on to the card front, and then we're just going to tie a single knot. Maybe. There we go. All right. So it looks like you've tied a bow. So this is the bow tied when you've kind of wrapped it all around and tied the bow using one long piece of ribbon. Uses way more ribbon, and this one you don't use as much ribbon. So up to you which way you want to tie that. Okay, so that's the front of the card. Oh, we need some embellishments. So on my sample, I did one of each of these adorable Easter assortment embellishments. So let's do that. We'll put one of the cute little Easter eggs, blue and a yellow dot on like that. Okay. So now we're going to take and adhere our mechanism. So this is our pop-up mechanism. And what you need to do is you're going to adhere this to the inside of the card. And the only two sections of this piece that get adhered down are the outside flaps. So I'm going to just take and put some glue. And you can put it wherever you want. I kind of line it up with the middle. You can use your grid paper if you want to get it lined up. So get that glued down, and then, oopsie, it's a good thing about liquid glue is it gives you some wiggle room, but also it sometimes wiggles when you don't want it to. So now I've put glue on the two outside flaps only, and these ones are free floating, and it's still not tacky. Okay, make sure that it's sticking before you start moving it around. And so now when you close your card, it looks like this. So that pops forward. And now we can take and adhere these. I don't recommend using dimensionals. I tried dimensionals on, did I try dimensional? Yeah, so my sample has dimensionals, and it just made my card quite thick. It doesn't close. And so I would just use liquid glue or Stampin' Seal. And because I want to make sure I don't get any glue top and bottom, particularly on the sections where it's going to pop out, I'm putting the glue on my pop-out mechanism. And if you go from one side to the other, you can get them pretty close to aligning so that they're aligned in the same kind of area. Everybody's going to be so excited about this pop-up that they're not going to be too worried if you're off just by a fraction of an inch or millimeter. There we go. So again, you're only putting the glue on this pop-out mechanism so that you don't adhere these to the front and back of your card. Like that. Let this sit for a minute. All right, so there is my pop-out card with the Easter's on its way. So that is project number 6 for the craft along. Okay, clean up so I can find things, and then we'll move on to the next project. Okay, I think I've got everything going here. How's everybody doing? Pam, how are you doing? I know you were trying to craft along and maybe you've kind of given up on that, but hopefully you can catch up. Okay, so the next card, if I can find it, is called an inside out flap card. And it's on page 17 of the tutorial. And this is why it's called an inside out, because it kind of goes, this piece on the front goes inside out. So it flaps over and ends up looking like that. So I've done it in Pretty in Pink. This is one of my cards, Pretty in Pink. And then I've used, again, some of the striped designer series paper. You could use, oh good, Pam. You could use whatever you want for the designer series paper, but I use the stripes, and that's what I think I've got cut for my sample. Okay, so for this one, if you have the kit, here's the pieces, and if you don't have the kit, you need to cut these pieces. So I've got a piece of Pretty in Pink. It's half of a sheet of cardstock, cut lengthways, and the scoring instructions are in the measurements, so follow those. You have a piece of basic white for the inside of the card. You have a piece of designer series paper, one on one side and one on the other side. So you have 2 pieces of designer series paper. And then you have a piece of Pretty in Pink and a piece of basic white. Now, if your piece of basic white was not cut correctly, because I realized after the fact I may have cut this. So this should be in imperial 2 inches by 4 1/4, and in metric it should be I think 5 centimeters is good, but it needs to be so that it gives that layer. So whatever the piece of base Pretty in Pink, this needs to be either 1/4 of an inch smaller or 1/2 centimeter smaller. So I may, if you got the kit from me, I may have cut this incorrectly. It may be too narrow, so you might have just to cut a piece of basic white. So this is the mechanism that makes the inside-outside flap like that. All right, so that's for that. And then you need to cut one of these baskets from Crumb Cake, and also one of the sets of the strips to do some weaving like we did yesterday. Yeah, Pam, I think it was wrong. So hopefully you've got some basic white that you can just cut. So we're going to do some weaving with those strips. We've got a bow for the basket in Pretty in Pink. You're going to cut out 2 of the Easter eggs, and we're going to stamp on them. So you can either stamp the Easter eggs and, oh, for you, Pam, it should be 2 inches by 4 1/4. Yeah. 2 by 4 1/4. So you could either stamp the Easter eggs first, or you could just cut them out with the dies and then we'll stamp. And then one of these cute little bunnies. Reminds me so much of the chocolate bunnies I used to get as a kid. Okay. So, and a piece of a little strip, half-inch strip of the designer series paper for the inside of the card. So the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to move all my stuff out of the way so I don't lose it. In your tutorial, on the second page, it shows you, gives you the instructions on how to score it and how we're going to cut it. So your piece may already be scored, and if it's not, the scoring instructions for the main part of the card are in the measurements. What we need to do is do a little bit of cutting, and so if you look in the instructions on number 2 and number 3 give you the instructions. So you want to put the piece of Pretty in Pink at 1 inch from the left edge to the score line. So you want the smallest section at the top, and we're going to take and we're going to line up the left edge with 1 inch. So this is the 4 1/4 inch side with that first score line, the shortest section, the smallest flap on this at the top, and we're going to take and we're going to cut from the score line up to the top, or from the top down to the bottom. So we now end up with a flap that looks like that. And then we're going to do the same, turn 90 degrees and cut. So now we're going to turn it 90 degrees, put that one, I think it's 1 and, no, 2 1/4. Is it 2 1/4? 2 1/4. Anyway, on the score line, we're going to cut down from the score line to that first cut. Like that. So that piece comes out. And then we're going to do the same. So I'm just going to take and put my right edge to my right. This is on the right side of the track. So there's a 1 inch mark. And I'm going to cut down to that score line, turn 90 degrees, and line up the score line, which is probably hard to see. Line up the score line, which is there, in the track, and cut down to that 1 inch mark. Like that. And so when we pull this out of the paper trimmer, we end up with a card base that looks like that, with these two pieces cut out. And so hopefully this little template drawing in the instructions show you the shaded sections are the pieces you need to cut out. So those are just go into the recycle bin or into your scrap bin, however you want. Okay, so now the card is landscape, but it's like a booklet fold. So it opens like a booklet, but it's long and narrow. And so we're just going to take and we're going to burnish. We won't burnish the score line for the moment, but that's your card base. So now we can start decorating. So this piece of basic white can go on the inside of the card. Like that. And we've got that little strip of designer series paper. That we're just going to put. You could put it right up to the edge of the card, or you could just leave it just a little bit, like 1/8 of an inch, or little gap there if you want, like I did. Okay, so that's the inside of the card. Now the two pieces of designer series paper, one of them is going to go here on the front, like this. And one of them is going to go on the inside. Now it does get a little thick. If you don't want to put this one on, you don't have to, but it just kind of finishes the inside of the card like that. So there's our card base done. And this is our mechanism that allows us to have it flip inside out. So our piece of Pretty in Pink is going to attach just to this flap And so when you pull on this, this is going to, so you can take and just kind of burnish this with your fingers. You don't have to really give it a good burnish. So this is going to fold like this. And so when you open the card, it opens like that. But we'll do some decorating first before we adhere this on. So we're going to use that same Easter's on its way stamp. And we're going to stamp that on the very right-hand side, or on the right-hand side of this piece of basic white. And so now that's going to adhere on to our pretty in pink piece. That. So you can either adhere this on now, or we can wait until we have it all decorated, but this piece is going to adhere, and I like to open up my card so I don't get it in the wrong spot. This piece is going to adhere, so it's lined up right on the outline of this pretty in pink piece. And again, so I don't get my glue on the wrong spot and on this side, I'm just going to put the glue on this flap, and that just helps me kind of keep it in the spot I want it and not get glue all over the place. So I'm just lining up all the edges like this, and so this is free floating, and only this right hand side under the sentiment is attached to that flap that we cut. And now when you open the card like that, it opens, and that's why I finished this side, because when you open, you get to see the inside of the card, and so it's called an inside out flap card. Okay, now let's do some decorating. You could make this even fancier by cutting some grass. I didn't, and so I cut the strips in crumb cake as well as the basket, and so we're just going to do a little bit of weaving like we did yesterday. So just weave the strips under, well, I went over under, so the first strip, and try not to do what I did yesterday on one of them where I tore my basket. So you have to be a little gentle, particularly when you get some of these strips woven in, because it does add some sturdiness to it. So you can just take them and lift them up either with your take your pick tool, kind of the slits that are cut into this basket when you cut it out. So just lift them up with your take your pick tool or with your fingers, depending on what is easiest, or a combination. So this one was over, so now we're going to do under, and I'm just lifting. Like I said, it's easier as when you start than it is as you get closer to the top. You don't have as much of the slit available to lift. They seem to be going in way easier than what they did yesterday. Okay, and I think I only did 3. Oh, that's good. Yeah, 4. That's great. I'm just going to put 3 in. But you could put more. You get a lot cut out. Like it would be, I think it would be really hard to get all of those strips woven in. So and I'm wondering whether the cardstock is easier to weave through now that I'm doing this, because this is way easier today than it was yesterday, and I'm wondering if it's the cardstock is easier to weave because it's a little softer than the designer series paper, and we were weaving through designer series paper yesterday, so maybe cardstock is easier to weave through. It's a little bit more flexible. Thanks, Karen. So if you've just joined, this is the Easter Joy Craft Along, and if you're interested, if you live in Canada, you could order the kit The I Want It All kit gives you the bundle plus the 8 make and takes plus a pillow gift and the tutorial. And if you live outside of Canada, you can order just the tutorial and make 8 projects. And at the end of this, when we're done, I will show you the projects that we showed yesterday. I've done the videos in 2 live events, one yesterday and one today. We're doing 4 each day. All right, so this is going to go on. Oh, you know what I didn't cut from the Pretty in Pink. I wonder if I have enough. Where's my Pretty in Pink? Yeah, I didn't cut from the Pretty in Pink a scallop. So just let me grab some. Maybe. There we go. So I'm going to cut a scallop for my basket. I thought my basket looked a little bit bare. So I'm just going to cut a little piece of this Pretty in Pink off. And bring my Stampin' Cut and Emboss. Thought I'd done everything I needed. Never fails, I forget something. Oh, and fingers crossed, I haven't had a coughing episode so far today. Maybe that's a sign I'm doing better. I definitely felt better yesterday. Towards the end of the day, of course, the cold comes back a little bit. But anyway, and if you're wondering why I sound so nasally, it's because I've been sick with a cold for a few days, quite a few days, all week actually. All right, so we're just gonna adhere this scallop to the top of our basket. And as I said, if you wanted to make the basket even a little fancier, you could cut some of the grass out and put the grass in the top of the basket. I didn't for this one, but you absolutely could. Okay, so now, I'm going to take just a little bit of glue, like just a little daub of glue on the top of my basket. Not too much. And put I know what I did with this one. I'm going to adhere this on like that with a little bit of glue. And when I glue it on, I'm going to use a dimensional. So we're going to use dimensionals to put our basket on. And you want to make sure that you're only adhering it. In this case, we're going to adhere it just down here at the bottom and with a dimensional. So just make sure you're putting the dimensionals only where they're going to stick to the flap part. You don't want this basket sticking to the back section of the card. So I could probably get away with one more dimensional along there. Like that. And I'm going to try to make it so that it's level. There we go. So it's stuck there. And I'm going to put one mini dimensional behind my basket like that. Because oh no, I don't want to do that. That's why I did it with just a little daub of glue. No, don't do a dimensional because I was then going to attach it to the back. Yeah, 100% easier to do through cardstock. Yeah, I agree with you, Pam. I'm surprised at that, but yeah, definitely easier. I think it's a little lighter weight paper than the designer series paper in this kit. Okay, so now this little bunny. If you wanted to, you could put a little bit of an eye on the bunny. I'm just going to glue them down because whenever I used to get these as a kid, they would have kind of an icing eye, which we always used to pull off and eat first. So the bunny is going to go in the basket. And then I cut out 2 of the Easter eggs, and we're going to tempt fate like I did yesterday. And we're going to stamp this after cutting out. And so we'll see how close we get it. Ooh, yay! Let's see, can I do 2? Well, not too bad. A little bit off on that one, but that's okay. You could pop these up if you want. I'm just going to use a little bit of glue. and tuck these under so it looks like a pretty Easter basket. Again, don't glue those so they stick onto the back of the card. All right, so that's called an inside out flap card because it kind of opens from the inside into the inside. Okay, we have one project left. Let me get myself straightened up. So this is a fairly easy project that we've got going on at the end. This is Lisa's project. It's on page 20, and it's a little box. Now I've just pulled some Hershey Nuggets with some of that little crinkle paper in it to go into the box. We're going to make this tag. This box is made with a piece of designer series paper. One of Lisa's comments when she made it, because she's made this box using just regular designer series paper in the past, and the regular designer series paper is easier because this cardstock is so thick that these are supposed to look like bunny ears. So it's kind of a bunny ear treat box, easy to make. But regular designer series paper, because it's not so thick, you will get your bunny ears will look a little bit more like bunny ears, if that makes sense. But I think this is just a cute little, this is another great little table decorations. If you've got some crinkle paper, you could put it in there. You could fill it with Easter eggs and put a little tag on it. So let me show you how easy this is. So what do you need for this? Well, in your kit, you have a piece of 6x6 cardstock. And I will say that, I'll show you, I don't know that you're going to be able to see this. Maybe you can. Can you see where my designer series paper may have been just cut not quite 6x6, or my scoring was just off a little bit. So one of my sides of my ears is a little taller than the other. So I'm just gonna make sure that my cardstock, I'm just gonna give it a trim and make sure that it is 6x6. Looks like it is. Oh, we do need this. So you're going to take your piece of designer series paper. I'm using this one with the tulips and the daffodils on it and the Easter eggs. And what we're going to do is we're going to score it. Now, depends on what side you want to show. I always say fold into the mountain, which is, and so if I was going to score this and fold into the mountain, this would be my outside and this would be my inside. If you wanted this to be the inside, you would score it on this side. Sorry, if you wanted this to be the outside and this to be the inside, you would score it on this side, because then the mountain or the raised line that you scored would be on the inside. So I'm going to score it this way. So we're going to score, and this is in imperial. You're going to score at 1.5 inches on all 4 sides. Or if you're on metric, it would be 4 centimeters on all 4 sides. And score, not cut. So score at 1.5 or 4 centimeters. Okay. So we've got our card, and I don't know if you can see when you actually score it on, like I said, on this this paper, it almost gives you a line there. It must have a silver core to it, because it almost looks like it's got like a silver line. Okay, so now what you're going to do is, this takes a little bit, so you're going to burnish on the fold lines. Gently burnish. four of your, okay. So now you're going to take one corner. So let's take this corner, and you're going to fold it so that the two score lines come and line up with each other. You see that? So you get this kind of triangle, and you're going to just pinch it like that. So if you hold it and fold down to the corner, just hold it in place and take a stapler, and you're going to staple close to the, just trying to follow where she says, I'm pretty sure, stapling as close to the base of the box as you can. So along that score line, yeah. Okay, and so I didn't really get on the score line, but I did get it stapled. And then, so now you've got that kind of bunny ear. So now you're going to repeat on all four of these. So pinching outwards so that you kind of are bringing the two score lines to line up with each other. And if you wanted to, and if it was on the inside, Pam, if it made it easier, you could probably take a pencil and just draw a light pencil mark to make it easier to line up. Because I am kind of a little bit guessing about where my score line is. If you kind of fold it over like that, you get a sense if you're actually lining up or matching the score lines. And as you get closer to having all four done, I find it's a little harder to get it close to the base as you can, and as close to the score line. So again, this, there we go. I think that's pretty good. The last one is probably just the trickiest. There. So then you can just take, oh, I stapled right on, tried to get on the score line and as close to the base as the bottom, as you can. Close to the bottom of the base as you can. I was more successful on some than others. This one's a little bit a ways. I got them pretty close to the base, but not always on the score line. And so now you can just take, and like I said, this paper, because it's so thick, doesn't kind of puff out like bunny ears, but I think it's such an adorable little box. Like that. Again, lots of options for your Easter table. That makes sense, Pam? Okay, so we're going to make a tag to go in to this. So you need a piece of designer series paper, which I guess I didn't cut. So I'm going to cut a piece of designer series paper that is 1 3/4 by 3 1/4. So I'm going to use, because I have it handy, I'm going to use these Easter eggs. So 1 3/4, this is Imperial, 1 3/4 by 3 1/4. Okay, so this piece goes on the pretty in pink. Now, you may have got the PDF instructions that said petal pink, but this is pretty in pink, and I did cut pretty in pink for the kits. So this piece is going to adhere onto the onto this piece of cardstock. Now, when I made this tag, so this is a don't do what I did. Oh, chocolate. Huh, the chocolate's falling out. Don't do what I did, because I tried to cut my tag before I put my piece of DSP on, and of course I don't do very well making a triangle, and so it got cut shorter and shorter. So this time round I'm going to adhere my piece of designer series paper on, to my piece of Pretty in Pink. Like that. Now, the instructions say to trim off the top corners at a slant and punch a hole. So, if you want to, what I'm going to do, because I am terrible at cutting this off even, I am going to take a piece of, maybe this, I'm going to take this piece of my basic white cardstock, and I'm going to kind of put my piece on the grid paper and use a pencil. So let's see. So this is 2 inches. So this is my 1 inch line. So I'm just going to put this like this, and I'm going to line this up with that 1 inch line. No, I'm going to line it up like that, higher. So you've got a flat top on it, so you can just move it up. And I'm just going to take and draw lines, because I made such a mess of that that tag when I made it, the first one, that yeah, that was not good. So that's my way of getting it so it looks more like a tag with an even top. So just get it, line it up with make the halfway mark, and then line up a piece of paper across it, and then cut. Or go for it and free cut if you're way better than me, because clearly I'm not very good at this. All right, these are this whole punch assortment, and so this is the 1/8 inch. And so I'm just going to take and punch a hole in the top of my tag. If you have tag dies, you could absolutely use the tag dies. Now, we need to stamp that cute little bunny. Which bunny is it? It is the bunny. No, it's that same floppy-eared bunny that we've been using. I think we all like the floppy-eared. This is another Lisa project. I think we all like this floppy-eared bunny. So we're going to stamp one of the bunnies and one of the Easter eggs. Now, we're not going to color anything on the bunny except the ears, so it's going to be a white bunny. So we're just going to color in the ears and the nose like that. And then we're going to color the Easter egg. So I'm going to use Pretty in Pink and Daffodil Delight, I think. Start. Okay. So you can do this however you want to do this. You could leave some sections white, but I'm going to do mine all in Daffodil Delight and Pretty in Pink. Okay, so now we need to cut our bunny and our Easter egg. Our bunny is there, and our Easter egg is here. And again, I'm going to use Post-it note tape to get those in position so they don't slip and slide around. And then I guess yesterday I did some fussy cutting just with paper snips because I was too lazy to get my machine out for just one little die cut. But today I will use my mini. And cut out my little bunny. There's a side. There we go. Put my dies back so I don't lose them. So I'm going to use dimensionals because I like to pop things up. So a couple of dimensionals for the bunny. So you can just go on kind of like that. Oh, and I think in the picture, I did use a different bunny this time than Lisa used. So if you're looking at the PDF and wondering, use the other bunny if you want it to match the tutorial. I was sure I looked at it and then still got it wrong. Again, I'm going to use another little piece of my mini dimensionals. Yeah, maybe a different DSP or yep. Or like I said, you could draw lines and maybe matching the lines on the inside would help. So we're just going to take and put that little bit across. You can trim off the excess if you want. And then we'll just use a dimensional on the back of the Easter egg. Now, Lisa's got the, let's see, I think I did it on this one. So we've got, so it is a different bunny, but that's okay. The bunny's holding the Easter egg. I'm going to just put my Easter egg down beside my bunny on this one. In your kit, you have a piece of the white baker's twine. And so what you can do is, trying to see what Lisa did. So she put the candy, which mine is all fallen out. Okay, put the candy in, whatever. If you've got some nice Easter candy, which I don't yet. These are Hershey Nuggets left over from Christmas. Let's take this off. So you could take and tie this up. Put some candy and tie it closed using gingham ribbon. So if I follow her instructions, we're going to use a little bit of gingham ribbon to tie our little bag closed. I don't have a lot of room at the top of this bag. I kind of got it filled full, but we'll try. Okay, there we go. Tie it closed. And then tie a bow. And then we'll put this through. I'm gonna do you can put this through however you want, but I've doubled it to put it through, and then I'm gonna that's a really tiny little holes. So this is where I have a hard time seeing Pam. Like trying to thread a needle for me these days is brutal. All right, so we'll just kind of pull that through, and then you can take and tie your bow and catch your tag in your bow. So I don't need to do that. I just need to tie the bow. And as I said, I often jip myself when I go to cut ribbon. So don't do that. I really made it hard for myself to tie a nice bow. I'm going to pull this up. Trying to catch my white baker's twine. There we go. Caught my white baker's twine in my bag top. Like that. So I've got my bow on and my little tag, and then that can just all go into my basket. And like I said, if you have some of the crinkle paper that you get, sometimes when you get shipping, it comes in shipping. Or if you're a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and Stampin' Up! Often sends things to us with crinkle paper in it, you can use that. Isn't that cute? I think that is the most adorable little box. And you could use this for anything. It could be for Christmas, for any occasion. All right, so that was part 2. That was the other 4 projects that we didn't do yesterday. So thanks for hanging in. So I'm going to quickly bring the 4 projects in and show you again. Yeah, that's the other way to do it, is just keep poking it through. All right, so that was the last one. This was the inside out flap card. This was the pop out card. And then the little basket. So those were the projects from today. And then from yesterday, we made this cute little basket that you can put treats in. This fabulous triple Z fold or Z fold card, a Dutch door card, and then a joyfold, diagonal joyfold card. So those are the 8 projects that we made over the course of 2 days. Thank you for those of you that purchased either the I Want It All or the kit or the tutorial. If you haven't purchased it and you've fallen in love with these projects, it's still not too late. So I've put the link into the description of this video. So you can still sign up and order, whether it's the tutorial or the other 2 options. If you live in Canada, you can order either the I Want It All or the kit or the tutorial. But if you live outside of Canada, the only option I have for sale is the tutorial. Well, coughing didn't kick in until the very end. All right. So thank you again for joining me. If you have any questions with these projects, I think there were a couple of corrections to the tutorial, and I'm going to send out a new tutorial to everyone I sent one to. So I've talked about any of the changes and the corrections during these lives with them, and so this will just be for if you go to make this project again. All right, everybody, thanks again for supporting me. Thanks again for joining me. And we will see you. Stay tuned. We are planning another one of these craft-alongs. We are using one of the new online exclusives coming out in March called Springtime Scenes. And so we will be advertising that in the next little bit. So if you enjoy